Ephesians 5 is a chapter in the Bible filled with guidance on how Christians are called to live in a way that reflects God's light, love, and wisdom. The Apostle Paul encouraged believers to imitate God, live in purity, walk in love, and be wise in how they use their time. This chapter also provides instructions for marriage, emphasizing mutual respect and love. Verses 1 to 7 Walk in love. Paul begins by urging believers to be imitators of God as dearly loved children, and to walk in love just as Christ loved us and gave himself up for us. The word walk here means to live consistently in love, compassion, and kindness. Jesus' sacrifice is the ultimate example of love, and Paul encourages believers to let this love guide their actions. In this section, Paul also warns us against behaviors that are inconsistent with a life of love, such as sexual immorality, impurity, and greed. He emphasizes that these behaviors are not fitting for God's people and can lead to consequences. Paul even warns against inappropriate speech like coarse joking or crude language, encouraging believers instead to speak words of thanksgiving. His message here is that Christians should live pure and upright lives that reflect God's love. Verses 8 to 14 Live as children of light. Paul then tells the Ephesians that they are no longer in darkness. Instead, they are light in the Lord. He encourages them to live as children of light, producing goodness, righteousness, and truth. This means that their lives should reflect God's character and reveal His love to the world. Paul calls for discernment, encouraging believers to find out what pleases the Lord and avoid participating in the fruitless deeds of darkness. He emphasizes that exposing wrongdoing rather than participating in it brings it to light. He quotes that what might be an early Christian hymn saying, "Wake up, sleeper, rise from the dead, and Christ will shine on you." This reflects the transformative power of Christ, bringing people from spiritual darkness into light. Verses 15 to 20 Walk in wisdom. In the next verses, Paul urges Christians to be careful in how they live, emphasizing that they should make the most of every opportunity because the days are evil. Here, Paul reminds believers to be intentional with their time and choices, recognizing that their actions have a significant impact. He contrasts being filled with the Spirit with being drunk on wine, emphasizing the importance of allowing God's Spirit to guide their lives. When filled with the Spirit, believers can worship with joy, singing hymns and songs, and giving thanks to God in all things. Paul's emphasis here is that believers should stay spiritually aware and live in a way that honors God. Finally, from verses 21 to 33, he talks about instructions for marriage. In the final section of Ephesians 5, Paul offers guidance on marriage, starting with the principle, submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. This verse sets the tone, encouraging a spirit of mutual respect and humility within marriage. Paul speaks specifically to wives and husbands, encouraging wives to submit to their husband as to the Lord, and husbands to love their wife just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. For husbands, this love is to be selfless, sacrificial, and caring, similar to Christ's love for the church. Paul explains that a husband should love his wife as he loves himself, emphasizing the unity and closeness of marriage. By drawing this comparison between marriage and the relationship between Christ and the church, Paul reveals marriage as a sacred bond reflecting God's love. Ephesians 5 encourages Christians to live lives that reflect God's love, purity, light, and wisdom. Paul challenges believers to avoid behaviors that lead them away from God and to embrace lifestyle that honor Him. Whether through loving one another, avoiding harmful behaviors, or living wisely, Paul's message is a call to let God's light shine through in all aspects of life. In marriage, Paul emphasizes mutual respect, sacrificial love, and unity, viewing it as a reflection of the relationship between Christ and the church. By following these principles, believers can live in a way that pleases God, brings light to the world, and strengthens relationship with each other, with one another.